To sit there and take a snuff out a young boy's life who was going to be a doctor and mutilate this body and not even care in the news. Shame on you for focusing all your time on Gabby Petito. But damn it, if there's not 400,000 Black people that go missing, I mean, there's so many of us. They don't report on us like they report on someone with blonde hair.
Hi everyone, it's Nini. Welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first official true crime video. I've been wanting to cover true crime for a while. I want to focus on crimes that occurred in the Midwest. I'm a Minnesota girl, so the Midwest is near and dear to me. The case that I'm going to talk about today is the death of Jelani Day. This is a recent case. It grabbed my attention. That's why I wanted to make it my first true crime video. Like I said, it is a recent case. It just happened at the end of August. The police at this point have come to a conclusion on what they think happened, but a lot of people don't buy it, and there's still a lot of questions. It's been compared to the Gabby Petito case. They kind of happened around the same time, and as we all know, Gabby Petito's case was covered by everybody and their grandfather, and I'm guilty of that too. I did make a video about it because I just had some thoughts that I wanted to talk about in it, and I did mention Jelani just briefly in there because one of the things I talked about in my video was missing white woman syndrome and how white women receive a lot more coverage than non-Caucasian men or women. And when you look at Jelani's case, and then you look at Gabby Petito's case, it is blatantly obvious that white woman syndrome is a real thing. The coverage on her case was just insane. And if just a fraction of that would have applied to Jelani's case, I think the family would have a lot more answers. So I wanted to throw my voice out to try to get his story told. I know I have a very small channel, but even small voices make a sound. What really drew me to this case the most is his mother, Carmen Bolden Day. She is such a strong woman, and everybody deserves a mother like Carmen. She is fighting so hard for her son.
I don't have that fear because I'm putting that aside because that's my son, and I'm going to do anything to get my son.
I watched multiple interviews that she's given. You feel for her. She's doing everything she can to try to find answers and give her son some justice. And like I said, this is a recent case, so some of the info that I read, some of it I read multiple versions of, so I'm not sure what is correct. If I say anything that turns out to not be true, that wasn't my intention. Let's get into the case. Jelani was 25 years old. He grew up in Danville, Illinois. He came from a big family, and he was very, very close to his mom. They talked and they texted on the phone every day, multiple times a day. He was described by family and friends as energetic, dependable, driven, full of life, always happy. He was athletic, and he participated in track and field in school, and he was also an avid swimmer. After seeing a friend get bullied for having a speech impediment when he was a child, that drove him to want to become a speech pathologist. So he received a bachelor's degree in speech pathology from Alabama Agriculture and Mechanical University, and he graduated at the top of his class. In 2021, he started a master's program at Illinois State University in Bloomington, Illinois. His dream was to become Dr. Jelani Day. Carmen was very, very proud of Jelani. Master's programs can be very demanding. The studying that you have to do, he also had clinicals on top of it, but he was excelling at it, and he was keeping up his GPA. Even though his schooling was very demanding, he still took time for his family if he could help them out in any way. They were all extremely close. His father unfortunately had cancer, and Jelani would drive the 2 hours to Chicago and just sit with him in the hospital, and they would talk and they would pray together. Jelani was actually planning to donate bone marrow to help out his father because he was a match. He also liked to help out his mom as much as he could. On the morning of August 23rd, 2021, he called his mom in the morning and said he'd taken care of some things that she had asked him to do. He went to school, he came home, called his mom again just to hear her voice. He also texted his professor, Kara Baster, who was the director of clinical education. He was working on a school project, and they made plans to meet the next day just to discuss the project. From my understanding, they didn't have a specific time they were going to meet. She just expected it to be sometime in the morning. The next day, Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, Jelani had a busy day planned. He had the meeting with his professor, he had classes, and he had clinical clinicals. At 6:50 a.m., he logged into the school's computer to work on some stuff. And then at 7:20 a.m., he's captured on school surveillance, heading to their Starbucks to buy a coffee. He's wearing dress clothes and very kind of done up. I wonder if he had to dress up that way because he had clinicals and, you know, you have to look presentable for that. Later that morning, Professor Baster starts to worry just a little bit when Jelani doesn't show up to discuss that project. He was very dependable. He was very punctual. He didn't put things off, but she thought, well, maybe he got busy with other things. I'll just catch him when he comes to my 1 p.m. class. 1 p.m. class comes, Jelani doesn't show up. And that was very, very out of character because education was very important to Jelani. He wouldn't just skip a class like that for no reason. She texted him and she didn't get any response, and so she contacted campus security. They looked up the address that Jelani had on file with the school. It wasn't his current address, it was his brother's address because he had used to live with his brother. So they go to his brother's house to see if Jelani is there, and his brother answers the door and he says, you know, Jelani's not here. He calls his brother, doesn't get a response. So he called his mom and said that the campus security was looking for Jelani. So Carmen thought, well, when's the last time I heard from Jelani? At first she thought it was that morning because they talked so much that it was hard to keep it all straight. But then she looked through her phone and realized they had last spoken the night before when he had called just to hear her voice. She tried calling and texting too and got no response. She tried not to worry too much because sometimes he put his phone on silent if he was studying. She did know he had clinicals too, and obviously you can't be answering the phone if you're in clinicals. So she just sent him a text message and said, call me ASAP. Meanwhile, Jelani's brother goes to Jelani's apartment to see if he's there, and there's no sign of Jelani. And that's when people really started to worry. He's not at school, he wasn't at clinicals, and he wasn't at his apartment. So where was Jelani? Carmen contacts the professor. They also start contacting friends to see if they can find out if anybody knew anything about where Jelani was. The next day, August 25th, when they still hadn't heard from him, Carmen went to the police to file a missing persons report. And this poor woman, from day one, the police were not helpful. They kind of brushed her off. They said, well, he's a college student. He was probably out partying too much the night before. One police officer apparently told Carmen that Jelani was probably off chasing some fast tail. And Carmen knew even that wasn't in the character of her son. The police do file a missing persons report, but they don't really do much. And so Carmen rolls up her sleeves and she just starts doing everything that she can to find her son. She called his credit card company to see what the last transaction was, and it ended up being that Starbucks purchase that was at the school at 7:20 that morning. She called his phone company and they did tell her that his phone last pinged near a marijuana dispensary in Bloomington at 9:15 that morning. After 9:15 on Tuesday, August 24th, there was no activity on his phone. On Wednesday, August 26th, Jelani's car, a 2010 white Chrysler 300, was found about 60 miles north of Bloomington in Peru, Illinois. It was hidden in some trees in a wooded area behind the YMCA. The Day family lawyer said that it was in an area where only locals probably would have known to put a car if they wanted to try to hide it. The car was missing its license plates. The keys were not in it. There was some clothes folded in the back seat. Later, his lanyard that held his student ID would be found a couple miles from this spot. Jelani's family said he knew nobody in Peru. They didn't think he'd ever even been to Peru in his life. They couldn't think of any reason why he would be in Peru. Peru has been described as a sundown town, and I had to Google what that is. It's basically a racist town. It's mostly inhabited by white people, and that it's not safe for black people after the sun goes down. On August 31st, the dispensary where Jelani's phone last pinged at, Beyond Hello Cannabis at 1515 North Veterans Parkway in Bloomington, released surveillance footage of Jelani from the morning he went missing. He walks into the dispensary at about 9:15, and he's wearing completely different clothing from what he was 2 hours earlier when he was at school. He's got a Jimi Hendrix t-shirt on, shorts, and a Detroit Lions baseball cap. That Hendrix t-shirt and the Detroit Lions cap is what was found folded up in the back seat of his car. Some people think Jelani looks worried in the surveillance camera footage. At one point when he's in the dispensary, he looks up directly at the camera. Some people theorize that maybe he did that because he wanted to make sure his face was on camera. I didn't read much into that because it could just be RBF. You know, when you're out and about running errands, you're not usually walking around with a smile on your face. I know I do this sometimes in the gas stations when you can see the camera. Sometimes it's just natural to look directly at it, but that's not to say that he wasn't worried. My biggest question when I first really looked into this case was, where's the surveillance footage of him leaving the dispensary? There's obviously a camera outside because you have clear footage of his car, where he parked it, and then walking in, and then there's the camera inside that sees him actually inside the dispensary. So where's the footage of him leaving? If he got in his car, you could see what direction he left in. You could see if he had ran into somebody in the parking lot, if somebody was following him. But police don't always release every information that they know when they are investigating a case. If they release everything, that could damage them building a case against any potential suspects. But for a while, I was for sure something probably happened at the dispensary, and that's why that footage wasn't released and you don't actually see him leave. But then I did read that Carmen did say that he went south when he left. So there must have been some footage that maybe they just showed her, or something where she knew that he did leave the dispensary that day and went south. But then that opens another question. If he went south when he left, how did his car end up north in Peru? Carmen took it upon herself to ask the businesses nearby if they had any cameras that would have been pointing in that area. She and friends and family even walked around on foot to see if they could find any clues. Friends and students passed around flyers trying to spread the word that Jelani was missing. Carmen starts going on as many TV interviews as she can.
My only goal now is to find out what happened to Jelani and to get justice for Jelani.
I've offered $25,000. We've got a GoFundMe that's raised over $10,000 right now. You can have everything. Just give me back my son. And Jelani, I love you. I love you so much. And I just want him to come home.
The family hires a lawyer and a private investigator. On September 2nd, Jelani's wallet is found in LaSalle. LaSalle and Peru are pretty much the same town. They're like literally right next to each other. Somebody saw a black man wearing a red shirt drop the wallet on the sidewalk. On September 3rd, over 100 people gather in the student center of ISU in support of trying to find Jelani. Carmen speaks and she pleads with people to help look for her son. The next day, September 4th, a male body is found in the Illinois River near Peru, just east of the Route 251 bridge. Some said that it was a naked body. Some said that he was wearing an undershirt, underwear, and a sweatshirt was tied around his waist. Carmen's made aware of this, and she immediately goes to the police and asks them, "Is this my son?" And they said that due to decompensation, it was going to take a long time to identify the body. She provides them with his dental records. She gives them some of her DNA. She has other family members give them DNA to make it as easy as possible for them to identify him. But she still has to wait and wait and wait and wait. I can just imagine how agonizing that is. Meanwhile, during that time, Gabby Petito goes missing and, her case is everywhere. So then Carmen starts asking, why does she matter and my son doesn't? She sees all this attention that Gabby Petito's getting and her son's been missing for longer and nobody was helping her. I just can't imagine what that feels like to be a mother and feel like your child matters less than somebody else's child.
I need to be afforded the same opportunity they just gave this young white girl and her family, that they found their daughter within 3 days, and now it's been 29 days. And I have no answers. The treatment that they're giving to this young white girl is not being the same treatment that they're giving to my young black son.
2 college students decide to walk around the area where Jelani's body had been found. They discover more of his clothing.
Just on the east side, on the north shore bank, is where his clothing was found. This access road where the gate is blocked off is owned by the state. They dump things back there, they own that. Okay. So it would have been open. And that road kind of ends right where it meets the river.
On September 2nd, the LaSalle County coroner called Carmen to tell them that they were probably going to be able to identify the body pretty soon due to new dental records. And that confused Carmen because she had provided them with all of his dental records a while ago. So when she asked about that, the person on the phone kind of got annoyed with her.
I've heard nothing until today from the Peru police, who were rude to me and act like I bothered them because I had questions. The coroner today was so disrespectful to me because I asked questions. He even told me he was angry with me, and that did I want to find out if this was my son or not.
The next day, September 23rd, 19 days after the body was found, it was positively identified as Jelani Day. When police were asked why did it take so long to identify the body, Detective John Furman of the Bloomington Police said that it was due to the coroner's office being out of a certain chemical. That could be the case. You know, due to the pandemic, a lot of things in every industry area have been out of something. He also said they had a backlog of cases. However, according to the Illinois State Police Public Information Officer, she said the delay was not due to any backlog, but she didn't give any reason as to why there was a delay. Now let's talk about the autopsy. There's a lot of questions surrounding the autopsy, and it's a little bit controversial. 3 autopsies were actually performed. The first one was by the LaSalle County Coroner's Office. The family hired their own pathologist to perform additional autopsies because they didn't trust what they were being told. This next part, I am going to put in a trigger warning. I'm going to discuss in detail the condition of the body. If you don't want to hear that, just skip forward 20-30 seconds or so. It wasn't until October 8th the Chicago Sun-Times released the autopsy results. Jelani was described as nearly faceless. His eyes were missing. He was missing his front, top, and bottom teeth. There were maggots, and his body had been bitten numerous times by river wildlife. Initially, the Chicago Sun-Times reported that his brain, liver, and spleen were also missing. That made everybody, including myself, think organ harvesting. But Carmen released a statement saying that those body parts weren't missing. They had just been liquefied due to being in the water for so long. It had also been 100 degrees at the end of August in Illinois, and heat makes bodies decompose faster. When the family hired the second autopsy to be done, that pathologist said that Jelani's jawbone had been sawed off, and the LaSalle County coroner said that he had to do that in order to do the dental record match. A lot of his body's condition could be blamed on the heat and wildlife. Not to be gruesome, but your eyes are soft tissue. It would be easy for a fish or turtle or whatever to get to him. But what I don't get is his front and bottom teeth missing. Teeth are really hard to pull out, and a fish certainly isn't going to be able to do that. As your body decomposes, I don't think they would fall out that easily. What makes me think that they were missing is if you got punched in the face, that's the teeth that would be knocked out. Just the front ones. The family did post a statement to Facebook on October 12th because there was so much discussion about the autopsy results, and I'll post a screenshot of it that you can pause and read the entire thing. I'll just read a couple parts of it. Per the second autopsy, the pathologist didn't have all the body parts, organs for the body they identified as our brother Jelani Day. According to the second autopsy, the pathologist was confused as to why the first pathologist did what he did to our brother's body to perform the autopsy itself. Furthermore, the second pathologist was confused as to why he didn't have the whole body, and we are under the impression that the state lab still has body parts in their possession. Also, there are major organs that are damaged, or in their words, mush and liquefied. We are not taking organ harvesting off the table, but still our mother's wishes are not to make organ harvesting the main focus. We are in the process of getting a third autopsy done due to numerous amount of conflicting information from the first and second autopsy. They have been keeping us in the dark, and we, the family, have been working to get answers. Due to the distrust, this is why we suspect foul play of the LaSalle County Coroner, LaSalle County Sheriff Office, LaSalle PD, Peru PD, and Bloomington PD. Father Michael Fleger, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He's a Chicago priest. He hired a private investigator who's also a pathologist to perform the third autopsy. That one did not reveal any injury or any new details, but that pathologist also mentioned that it was limited due to the condition of the body. 23 days after being pulled from the river, Jelani's body was released to his family. Carmen wanted to see him in order to confirm that it was indeed her child, but her attorney advised her not to look at the body. I get why she'd want to see him, because you'd want to know that it was your child. No matter what condition a body is in, a mother would know if it was their child or not. But then again, no mother should have to see that.
They mutilated my son, and I need to know what happened to him. He wouldn't have hurt nobody. Jelani shouldn't have been like that. I didn't even get a chance. His brothers and sisters didn't get a chance. His dad didn't get a chance. When people die, you're supposed to be able to make peace and see them. I couldn't even see my baby.
Even after identifying his body, Carmen and the family still had to wait to learn a cause of death.
Have they given you any information about an investigation into the cause of death?
No. To them, Jelani didn't mean anything. There's no effort. There's no push. There's no nothing that was being done about my son. I did all that lab work. Me and my kids. Me and everybody that never knew Jelani, my family, friends, strangers, did all the legwork. My son didn't get any type of help. And I'm pissed. My son wasn't involved in the streets. He wasn't a gangbanger. He wasn't nothing. But I guess if that could have been their narrative, then it would have been, oh, let's forget about him. But he was a productive citizen. I raised a good young man.
After the body was confirmed to be Jelani's, the police did kind of indicate to Carmen that they're thinking that he did it to himself.
They implied that Jelani drove himself to Peru, parked his car in this wooded area, walked himself down to this bank and stripped his car and got in this water. My son knows how to swim.
On October 26th, the LaSalle County Coroner Office released the official cause of death as drowning. He said there were no signs of injury prior to Jelani's death, but that the condition of the body was suboptimal in order to know that for sure. Carmen called that cause of death an insult. She said, quote, "Jelani was an avid swimmer, and an avid swimmer doesn't drown himself. Jelani didn't have depression or mental issues. Those are indicative of someone that had suicidal thoughts. That's not what my son had." End quote. The family feels very strongly that foul play was involved. Like I said at the beginning, this is a recent case and there's still so many questions. When you look at the theories of what might have happened, an accidental drowning doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. The main one being that Jelani was an avid swimmer. It is possible that maybe he could have been high from marijuana when he went swimming. That can impair your skills. I did read that cannabis and tobacco were found in his body, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he was smoking that morning. I think cannabis stays in your system for like 30 days or something. It also doesn't logically make sense why he would be swimming in that river. He had a big day planned. Why would he go in the middle of the morning an hour north to swim in the river? His car was found about 2 miles from the river. So if he parked it where it was found, he would have had to walk 2 miles just to go swimming. Why was his wallet in one location? Why was his ID in another location? Why were the license plates missing from the car? If you're just going for a casual swim, you're not going to do those kinds of things.
There's a trail here. So they're saying that he drove his car, came down this street, drove his car through this trail. That's the ivy. The Y is over here. Yes.
And you look down and
we looked when we got here that night. The police showed us the car was right here. They had to take his car and pull it up there. Pull the cable up there on a tow truck.
It is probably possible if he was going for a casual swim in the river that he parked close to the river, and then as he was swimming, somebody found his car and stole it, and then once they realized that it belonged to a missing person, got rid of the license plates and parked it to get rid of it, and then just threw some of his belongings here and there. If you think about the theory of it being an intentional drowning, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. Nothing about Jelani indicates that he wanted to end his life. His mother has been outspoken that he didn't have depression. It's possible you can be depressed and have those thoughts, and nobody picks up on that. It can be easy to hide those emotions, especially in males, because there's a stigma that men can't show emotions, especially those kinds of emotions. Jelani had plans for his life. He had goals. He was going to be a doctor. That was very, very important to him. And he was working very hard at doing good in school and succeeding so that he could make that dream come true. So I don't think he would give up on that. The biggest thing that makes me really doubt that he ended his life on purpose is that he was going to donate bone marrow to help out his father. Helping people was important to Jelani, and his family was super important. He would not let his father down like that in any way, in my opinion. I highly, highly doubt that he would not have been there for his father if he could have been. There's also the question of the clothing. Like, why was he at school wearing nice clothes and then 2 hours later in a t-shirt and shorts at a marijuana dispensary? The fact that the clothes found in the backseat of his car were the clothes that he was wearing at the dispensary, makes me think that he changed back into those dress clothes and that his intention was to go back to school. I'm curious why you would change clothes. Maybe you don't want to show up at a marijuana dispensary looking nice. I'm not sure. I'm also curious how much effort the police put into looking at physical evidence. They waited a week to search the area where his car was found. They obviously didn't do a good job searching the area where his body was found. Jelani's phone still hasn't been found, but you should be able to still pull his records and see who he was texting and who he was calling. I'd be really curious to see in the week or month or so prior to him disappearing, are there any numbers in there that the family doesn't recognize? Another theory is that the police killed him and covered it up, or they know who killed him and are covering it up. If Peru and LaSalle are sundown towns and still heavy on racism, it's possible. You would think things like that wouldn't be in 2021, but it's still possible, unfortunately. I did watch a couple press announcements that the Bloomington police held, and I just have to say, their public information officer, Detective John Furman, is so annoying to listen to. I hate public speaking, and I don't blame anybody for being nervous, but how does somebody who says every other word become a public spokesperson for a police department?
To give the support to the Day family in the early morning of September 4th, and then located the body just a few hours later.
He did express sympathy to the family. On either September 27th or September 28th in Normal, Illinois, an anonymous artist put up a painting of Jelani Day on the exterior of a building that belonged to the city. The town removed it on September 29th, saying that it was against town rules for what can be posted on the outside of public buildings. This enraged a lot of people. They did hold a city council meeting to discuss the matter on October 4th. The city put the painting in the window of that building just for that day to show that they do support Jelani Day. Prior to the start of the city council meeting, there was a rally and a march.
Jelani's life matters! Jelani's life matters! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
She begged us, please see my son. And how does the town of Normal respond to this grieving mother? By removing a mural of his image.
When the council meeting started, Mayor Chris Coos asked that there not be any shouting or any applause, and the people responded by shouting, "Black Lives Matter, Jelani Day matters, Black Lives Matter." Many people expressed their opinion that had Jelani Day been white, the painting would have never been removed. I did a search to see if there were any paintings of Gabby Petito put up on buildings, and I did find a couple, but I didn't dig far enough to see if it was violating any city ordinances. Mayor Coos said that if they left it there, it would have been setting a precedent for people to put whatever they want on the side of buildings. I mean, come on, dude. It's not like it was an advertising for a business. It wasn't graffiti. It wasn't foul language. It was a memorial. Couldn't an exception have been made to leave it up for a month? Or a week, or 2 days even. They barely left it up for 24 hours. A memorial service was held at Illinois State University on Thursday, October 7th, and an official celebration of life was held for Jelani on Saturday, October 9th in his hometown of Danville, Illinois. The service lasted almost 4 hours. People sang Jelani's favorite gospels and talked about how much he had impacted their lives and everything that he had accomplished in his own life.
I'm only getting ready to lay Jelani to rest. But I'm not going to rest because I can't rest because I don't know what happened to Jelani.
I have a few updates since I recorded this video. Jelani's phone was found on October 17th. A man had pulled along the side of the interstate and got out, and he noticed the shattered phone on the side. For some reason, he brought it to Walmart and turned it in. Walmart did apparently give him $80 for it, so apparently that's the thing. If you find lost phones, you can bring them to Walmart. I'd never heard of that before. Walmart gave it over to the police. The police had it for a few days, but they did not inform Carmen of it until November 11th. It was found near an exit to the interstate, and I couldn't find anything that mentioned the specific exit. But when I looked at the map around the Beyond Hello dispensary where Jelani's phone had last pinged at, there is a Walmart a little bit north of it, and then a ramp to get onto Interstate 55. If you follow that interstate a little bit west, then it connects with the interstate that then would go north to Peru. Carmen had already told the police that they needed to focus on that exit area and look at camera footage from all the businesses around there. She went herself to a lot of the businesses and asked them to look at footage. She mentioned a Dollar General near there, let her sit in their store and review their surveillance footage, and she sat in that store for 4 hours reviewing footage. I didn't find a Dollar General in that area, but there is a Dollar Tree, which makes more sense as to what footage you would want to look at. So I wonder if she just meant Dollar Tree when she said Dollar General. I get them confused myself too. As far as I know, the phone is still in the possession of the Bloomington police, and Carmen would really like them to hand it over to the FBI because she does not trust the Bloomington police. In an interview Carmen had with Newsy regarding the phone being found, she and the reporter talked about how it's all been random people who have found the evidence. Random people found the car, random people found the wallet, the body, the phone. The police have found nothing. When I was looking up information on the phone being found, I came across some new information that I hadn't read about yet, and it made me come up with my own theory on what might have happened to Jelani. Reverend Jesse Jackson has become involved in this case. He stated that the night before Jelani went missing, Jelani had been hanging out with several white college students. He said 2 of those girls have now gotten lawyers. Carmen said that it was 2 female college students who had found Jelani's clothing along the river, and that those girls have now lawyered up. So I'm wondering if those are the same girls. That is highly suspicious. If you're just a random person and you happen to find clothing of a dead person, why would you need a lawyer? One part about his autopsy that I didn't mention when I initially recorded the video, another trigger warning. One thing that was found on Jelani's autopsy was that his genitals were flayed. That was their exact wording. I thought that maybe wildlife had done that. You know, sometimes they go for the appendages, stuff that's going to be easier to get, you know, fingers, toes. But now hearing about these white college students and that they lawyered up makes me wonder, and this is entirely just my theory, makes me wonder if what happened to Jelani is very similar to what happened to Emmett Till. If you're not aware of the Emmett Till case, it happened decades ago and it's horrific. My theory on what happened to Jelani, and this is entirely just my opinion, it's hypothetical, I could be 100% wrong on this. I am wondering if he had been hanging out with these white college students and maybe some white male students or other white people did not like that. Remember, Peru is a well-known racist town. It's been called a sundown town. Peru's not far from where he was living and going to school in Bloomington. So did these men maybe ask the girls to lure Jelani to a certain place? I thought, well, maybe they asked him to buy weed and meet them somewhere, but I think weed is legal in Illinois, obviously if they have dispensaries, so you wouldn't necessarily need somebody to buy it for you, but maybe they did, and when he showed up, they quote unquote punished him by flaying his genitals, murder him, and then get rid of the body and evidence. Maybe no males were even involved and the white female college students did this themselves just because they're racist too, or who knows. Since it was 2 white female college students who found the clothing, I thought, well, if they are guilty of doing something, wouldn't it have been smarter to just destroy it, you know, throw it away, burn it or whatnot? But if they were trying to stage it to make it look like he went for a swim and drowned, maybe they wanted to say, hey, we found this clothing on the riverbanks, to provide evidence to make it look like he took his clothes off and went for a swim and then drowned. Again, that is just entirely my theory. I could be completely way off, but I am very suspicious that that is maybe what happened, especially since the white female college students who found the clothing won't even talk to Carmen at all.
There were 2 young white girls. They said the police officers told us that they was from ISU that were bored, that came down here because they wanted to find information to see if they can help locate anything about Jelani. Ask them why they would come down here. Ask them why this would be the spot that they would look at. How would they know? Ask them why they lawyered up right now.
Mrs. Day has wanted to meet the young ladies that found the clothes, to thank them personally for coming out here to seek justice for Jelani, and then is told that the young ladies are lawyered up And so she wanted just to thank them for taking the time out. But now she's never even been able to meet the ladies.
Who are these girls? I couldn't find names or pictures of them. But then again, if they are innocent, if they didn't do anything wrong when it comes to Jelani's death, then they don't deserve to have their identities out there. But I am curious. Jelani was buried on October 19th in his hometown of Danville, Illinois. Carmen said, quote, "I just saw one of the best things God blessed me with go into the ground, and I will never get to talk to him or see him again." End quote. It really makes you wonder with this case, if it had received the same amount of attention that Gabby Petito had received, how much more information would have come to light? Like, how many people reported seeing Brian hitchhiking or them fighting in a restaurant on a certain day or spotting the van? If more people knew about this, there's a potential that people could have said, oh, I saw him at the gas station at this time, or I saw him on this street, I saw his car here. It just makes you wonder how much more closer the family could be to the truth if this had received more attention. The coverage that Gabby Petito received is great. It's not a bad thing at all. It's just unfortunate that not every person who is missing or murdered receives that kind of attention. It does seem to be white people who get the focus. I don't quite get why that case did grab the attention so much. I watch a lot of true crime, and some of that stuff is pretty fascinating. Gabby's case was kind of cut and dry. It was an obvious case of domestic abuse. With Jelani's case, nobody knows exactly what happened. What if it's a serial killer going around? To me, Jelani's case should have received more attention on that fact alone. Brian Laundrie wasn't necessarily a threat to other people. If somebody did do this to Jelani, who's to say they're not going to do it again? I know I'm guilty. Like I said at the beginning, I made one video on Gabby, but some people just went so overboard. Multiple videos a day, multiple Instagram posts. I didn't see it on TikTok because I'm kind of new to TikTok because I'm an elder millennial, but apparently it was all over TikTok. In my opinion, unless you are a lawyer or a former police officer or detective, you know, somebody who has legitimate career expertise to contribute to it. If you made more than 10 videos on Gabby Petito, you are disgusting, in my opinion. And on that similar note, I was subscribed to Scott Reich, but I did recently unsubscribe from him because I left multiple comments on different videos and in live chats asking him to please cover the Jelani Day case as much as he was covering Gabby, and I didn't get any response from him. And I'd like to mention that instead of spending even 1 minute mentioning Jelani's case, Scott chooses to focus on sharing information as important as this.
Brian Laundrie's father was spotted mowing his lawn in Florida just the other day, less than 24 hours after the cause of death of Gabby was released. I mean, the guy, you still got to mow your lawn.
So then I was a little curious, so I scrolled back through some of his previous videos to see if he ever covered anybody who was non-white. He covered some non-white cases where the perpetrator was Black or Asian, but I couldn't find any where he covered any cases where the victim was non-white. Newsy is where I saw a lot of Carmen Day's interviews, and I don't know if they have an actual like TV show or if they just do everything online, but they did many interviews with her, and that was really good to see. To put some numbers in comparison of these two cases, Jelani went missing on August 25th. Gabby went missing on September 11th. For Gabby, it took 8 days for her body to be found. For Jelani, it took 10 days for her body to be found. For Gabby, it took 2 days for her body to be identified. For Jelani, it took 19 days for his body to be identified. The FBI became involved in Jelani's case after 36 days. They became involved in Gabby's case after 6 days. It's possible the FBI got involved that quickly because it involved multiple states, and I know they usually get involved when it involves crossing state lines, but sometimes numbers speak louder than words. That's all I have for this case. I probably won't have time until January to do another dedicated true crime video because I'm going to be getting into Christmas looks with my face paint, but I am excited to continue this. I've been a true crime junkie longer than I was a makeup junkie. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case in the comments. I'm going to end this video with a clip from an interview that Carmen Boldenday had given. Her words say it best. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
We are all humans, we are all people. It shouldn't matter whether you're black or white for anybody to help you. It should just be because you breathe air just like I do. And you are somebody to your family just like he's somebody to us.